Groups 7 and 10 will stay behind to fly the speeders. As soon as each transport is loaded, evacuation control will give clearance for faking Star Wars Radio. That's right, it's the maiden voyage of 2019 of Faking Star Wars Radio, the official podcast of FakingStarWars.net. Thanks for tuning in. Here's what the new year brings us with this episode. We have a comic book review and discussion, Duel of the Fakes, the return of the patented Fake-O-Meter, an interview with world-famous DerpFakes, responsible for putting Harrison Ford's face on Alden Ehrenreich's face in the Han Solo movie, and much, much more. My name is Storm Duper, and joining me today is my great co-host, Teeb. Darth Drivel will also be joining me later in the show. Say hello, Teeb.
Hi. I'm so thrilled to be here.
How was your New Year's?
I was okay. I got to piss off a lot of, people, so it's always good.
It sounds like it was business as usual for you then.
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. All right, well, we have a great show. Are you ready for Duel of the Fakes later on this episode? I think you might have a chance to win 2 in a row.
I've been keeping my nipples warm.
Oh, very good, very good. Well, Teeb, in this first segment, we like to discuss, some kind of new Star Wars product or toy or property even. And I think last time we talked about my new BB-8 Sphero robot. I actually got the R2-D2 one as well. Have you played with either of those?
Yeah, actually, when it first came out, I got the BB-8 for my lovely bride.
Yeah.
And we chased the cats around the house.
Well, the problem with the R2 one is that as soon as you put it on any floor that any pet has come within 50 miles or so, it just gets totally gunked up with fur and garbage and all kinds of, crap in there. So it's kind of a design flaw. So unless you're using the R2 in a hermetically sealed box, you basically have to play with it once until it gets dirty.
It's like the Roomba, you see the Roomba,
right.
And it's like the house is already like you just said, like immaculate and spotless, and it's kind of ridiculous. It's like if my house looked like that, I wouldn't need a damn Roomba. And you're telling me the Roomba is gonna make my house that is like an actual where normal human beings live.
Well, Product
it's not
Pair,
gonna
they
work.
should actually sell the R2-D2 Sphero with the Roomba, and then he could just go and ride on the Roomba, and he'd be perpetually clean.
I would totally get that. That would probably be the first Roomba I would buy. Would be a droid Roomba, but of course, Disney and George Lucas and all them would have to make a deal with the Roomba people. I don't know. I think they're really trying to work with Skynet first and take over the world.
Well, this week for our kind of product discussion, we thought we'd do something a little different, and I'm sure you're familiar that in the last couple weeks, I think it was on December 21st, the highly anticipated fan film produced by Star Wars Theory, that's their YouTube channel, Vader, Episode 1, Shards of the Past, was released on YouTube. Highly, speculated what this would be. Big budget, actually, for a fan film. I think it was self-funded. Really interesting idea. Have you seen it?
I have, but it was sadly lacking in Ewoks.
Yeah, so the idea behind the fan film, I guess it comes shortly after the events of Revenge of the Sith, and broken up into 6 pieces. So in the first episode, we're kind of getting a lot of interaction between Sheev Palpatine himself and the newly ensconced in black armor Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. So if you didn't see it, I do recommend it. What was your first reaction to it?
Finally somebody has really addressed this in a pseudo professional setting. It's an independent fan fiction film, but the quality for it is actually really. I mean,
the
really
CG
good.
Looks good. The laser blasts and the lightsaber stuff, the electricity all looked like it was produced by a professional studio.
Yeah, it really does. But the finally part is because right after Panda Bear, right after Padme dies, why didn't Anakin just snuff out the life of the Emperor?
It's a great question.
Like why? Like the revenge. The whole reason that he joined the dark side is so that Padme would would live
Right.
forever. And that deal kind of fell through.
There's that one little line that Sheev throws in there, kind of like, maybe together we can find the secret to, whatever. And it's just sort of it's very cheap, but it's thrown in there to for the lemmings to not question too deeply the structure of the plot or characterization, I guess.
Yeah, I just felt it was, and that's what I liked about this fan film. It shows he's constantly thinking about killing the
Right.
Emperor. It's just like he's playing it out in his head. I'm like, yes, that is exactly what I believe Vader would be doing, just constantly. And that's the way of the Sith too. The Sith, they value that betrayal and that intrigue and that wanting to destroy your master and become the next master. So I liked how Palpatine is like, I kind of know what you're thinking. You're trying to figure out how to. The
performances were pretty good,
do me in.
I think too. I mean, so you've got a good motivation for this in terms of the story that it tries to cover. I thought Vader surprisingly sounded a lot like what's his name, James Earl Jones. It was obviously not James Earl Jones, but it wasn't like Pee Wee Herman's voice. So I mean, I accepted that.
That would have been an interesting.
I think that's for
version
episode
of it.
2. They have that one in the chamber for us. But Sheev was a little different.
Yes.
Like there were moments. I thought the actor who played Sheev was actually a talented actor, but there was something about the voice. I don't know. He sounded like he had some kind of a Moroccan accent or something to his prosody. Did you pick up on that?
I did, and I thought that he might be from the same planet or country as Mike Zero.
Maybe it is Mike Zero.
It's Zerovian.
Yeah, it was
it's
just
Zerovian
like an
accent.
implacable sort of feeling of what is this
Yes.
guy's accent, and I just couldn't place it.
The planet of Canada.
Right. So, has the part 2 come out yet? I haven't seen it. If it has,
You mean the second shard?
the second shard. Yes, shard in my pants and tell me that I'm a Dark Lord of the Sith.
Hey, you told me you have to keep this kid friendly, so I won't bring in the whole S&M stuff with like Vader being his pet and the black leather. And
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
The possibilities for porn
without a
parodies
leash.
are unbelievable.
Yes.
You almost got the feeling like this was somebody parodying a porn parody of Star Wars. I mean, it had that feeling to it of just the intimacies, the Vader hugging Padme. I mean, what was that? That was just incredible.
Yeah,
I couldn't watch that with a straight face.
I have no comment on that.
It was faker than fake, it was like the stuff of nightmares, but it was also kind of appealing.
Well, I know there were some people that were mocking it relentlessly, but I actually feel like that's something that's always bothered me, like I said. So to see something that has always bothered me addressed with such passion, where it's not just a conversation that I have with my friends while I'm drinking, like, oh, why didn't Vader just like totally kill it? Somebody spent a lot of time and effort and money and
$100,000 worth,
blood, sweat, and tears. Yeah.
Well,
so I can't crap on it, because there was the scene with the bringing out the heavy the machine gunner troopers.
Oh, right.
And just like blasting him, and he's just still kind of I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Because he's basically, that's his fantasy though, really. If you think about it, right? And that's all him playing it out in his mind.
Right. Well,
and that was one of the things that confused me. Much like people say about faking Star Wars, it was hard to determine what was real and what was not real.
Yes. We have been accused of that at times. See, I want more content like this. I mean, the more we get of stuff like this, the happier I'm going to be, and the easier my job is going to be too, So just bring it on.
Yes.
I mean, that's really my first attitude. So the more fan content, the more stuff we get, the richer the galaxy. So in any case, maybe we'll make this a special feature and review the second episode when it does come out in the new year. But for now, episode 1, Shards of the Past. That's Shard with a D at the end. Please enjoy that for free on YouTube. So great.
Yeah, it was. I highly recommend it, and I definitely will be on board to review the other one.
Duel of the Fakes. Duel of the Fakes. Well, Teeb, a new year means an all-new start, which is great news for you, since if memory serves, you and IG ended last year on a losing streak in the game that took the galaxy by storm in 2018.
Well, we're demanding a recount, so...
Right. Well, of course, I am talking about our very own Duel of the Fakes. That's right, the game where one true story is hiding among some true fakes. Do you think you've got the hang of the game by now? Will 2019 be a year of victorious dueling for you, Teeb?
It's one of my most attainable New Year's resolutions. It says so in the stars.
And it also says so in the script, huh?
I never read the script.
Nah.
It's garbage. Garbage.
Well, I'm no astrologist, but let's see if you're right. Remember the same rules as last year. I'll read 3 supposedly fake Star Wars news headlines or stories, and it's your job to guess which one's the real story, only posing as fake news. Got it? I hope so, because you've only played this 35 times now, so.
No, more like 6, but yeah, okay.
Right. So on this edition of Duel of the Fakes, the theme is innovation within Star Wars. This whole episode is kind of has its eyes on the future, innovation, technology, development in the Star Wars universe and in fandom. So focus on the splinter in your mind's eye, Teeb, because here we go. All right. Story number 1. In Vader Immortal, the upcoming Star Wars VR series produced by ILMX Lab, players get to step into the dark side shoes of not only Vader himself, but also his loyal manservant, Vanay, last seen in Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. According to writer David S. Goyer, in the Vanay episode, you must decide which guests to let in to see Vader. Choose unwisely, and you will pay a hefty price. We are told among the castle guests is none other than Supreme Leader Snoke, who will appear as a much more handsome version of the damaged goods that are seen in the sequel trilogy. Now, you laughed. Now, do you know who Vanee or Vanee, V-A-N-E-E, with a little accent, blaster mark on the E? Do you know who that is?
No, I've never heard of this guy.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. So there was a brief period of speculation when Rogue One came out that this guy was actually Snoke in Rogue One. So I don't know if you remember, there's a scene where this kind of, it's sort of, who's the Hunchback of Notre Dame? Like an Igor kind of character, or Quasimodo sort of type character, stumbles into Vader's sort of recuperation room where he's in the Bacta tank, and he's like, somebody's here to see you, master. And he looks kind of shriveled and ugly, but not quite as bad as Snoke. So a lot of people were like, "Oh, that's Snoke. That's Snoke." Anyway, so yeah, you basically get to play the doorman of Mustafar. So
that's insane, because if you put somebody in if Vader has a big party, you have to determine where to seat the guests.
I guess so.
Based on that's a thing.
Wow. Affinities. Yeah. Do you want to put Jabba next to Boba Fett, or where are they going to be for the dinner party on Mustafar? I guess so. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, sounds interesting. So here's the second story that should be fake, but it could be a sheep in wolf's clothing. President Trump's Moon to Mars mission will use Star Wars technology to power spaceships. Yes, the spacecraft will use solar electricity to then create plasma through an electromagnetic field. To put it simply, plasma is the stuff that supposedly drives everything from X-Wing and TIE fighters to Star Destroyers and even Death Stars throughout the entire Star Wars franchise. So that's story 2. And last but certainly not least, on the second anniversary of Carrie Fisher's passing, her brother decided to share like a few details regarding how Lucasfilm would be using his clearly dearly departed sister in Episode 9. According to Todd Fisher, J.J. Abrams is going to be combining unused footage from The Force Awakens along with all new, get this, motion capture performance by a look-alike actress. Where have we heard of that before? Sounds vaguely familiar to what they did with, I think it was, not Ben Mendelsohn, but whoever played Tarkin in Rogue One. So both performances will be digitally meshed to look and sound seamless. Fisher mentioned that Leia's grave in the film will be kept a secret, as the First Order would be keen to desecrate any reminder of the hope that General Leia provided the galaxy. Because of that, we're told that the portable grave is always with Rey, who continues to receive visions of hope and important advice from Leia. So you have story number 1 about the Vader Immortal virtual reality game with Vanay. Story number 2 about President Trump's Moon to Mars spacecraft technology. And story number 3 about the motion capture meshing performance with Carrie Fisher's original footage from The Force Awakens being meshed together in Episode 9. Which one do you think is the real fake, Teeb?
Well, Regis, I'd like to eliminate one of the options if that's possible.
Okay. Well, in the spirit of true generosity at the start of the new year, I'll let you pick between 2 stories, and then I'll eliminate one of those 2.
The Leia one.
Okay, the Leia one and
the plasma one.
The plasma one. Okay, so I am going to eliminate the story about Leia. So that is actually a fake story. It's not true. Todd Fisher did come forward talking about the performance, but he only confirmed that JJ is going to be using lots of old Force Awakens footage. There's absolutely no plans to use any CGI to add more Leia into the film, so they're just going to have to write the entire script for Episode 9 to work around the few outtakes that they had from Force Awakens.
I kind of cheated a little bit on that because I think I heard something about that with regards to how they weren't going to be using the motion capture.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that they are going to use some kind of digital wizardry, but just the same amount that they would normally use for any actor who is living as well. So as long as it doesn't exceed the normal amount, then I think it's okay.
Yeah, if you think about Brandon Lee in The Crow, they didn't have all the fancy CGI stuff and definitely didn't have the mocap and all that.
That's right.
But they did a decent job with what they had to work with because they had no choice. So,
right.
And it's ILM. They're going to have a lot of tricks up their sleeve. So
Sure. So what's it going to be? Do you think it's the virtual reality or the ion plasma technology that's the real story?
Well, because 2019 is the year to win, I'm going to eliminate the Vinay story. There's no way that's real.
This is Star Wars' attempt at hitting that butler hotel restaurant management demographic.
I mean, if they're really doing that, I would love to do that. I mean, but again, what are you going to do? You're going to follow around Vader and pick up his turds, his charred turd. I don't know.
Yeah, you're basically Jeeves for Vader, or like Batman, who's Alfred.
Yeah, Alfred. Yeah, I mean, if Vader were Batman, that would be cool. But what does Vader do? I don't know.
And they are both orphans in a way. Bruce, who's Batman?
Wayne.
Bruce Wayne and
don't tell people.
Anakin
Jesus.
Skywalker. Yeah, I mean, neither of them have fathers, right? So, well, you're right. It is the second one about President Trump's plan. So
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. NASA revealed on Monday, actually, that they're actually duplicating technology from Star Wars, and it's part of the Solar Electric Propulsion Project. So the whole purposes of this, I guess, is to eliminate the need for kind of chemical propellants that are used in rockets motors to make deep space travel and Moon to Mars missions more of a reality. And the basic reason for this is that solar power is a superior fuel. So they take the solar power and then somehow are able to transfer that into this plasma technology, which is exactly the way the Star Wars TIE fighters worked. Many people don't know that the TIE fighters actually, had solar panels on them as part of their array. And so it's really just taking what was invented in Star Wars and turning it into something that NASA can use now. So
Trump is actually embracing solar energy to get us to Mars.
Yes, that's right.
We have to impeach him immediately. Obviously.
Yes. Well, congratulations. You're 1 for 1 in 2019. I would write this down in a very important place and keep it secret, keep it safe, because the chances that you're going to go 2 for 2-0 are very slim. So.
All right. Well, challenge accepted, buddy. As long as I beat IG 69, that's all that matters.
Yes, he's still on vacation assassinating his family. We'll have him back hopefully in a couple of weeks, though. So
he's trying to find that castle in Vancouver.
That's right. Yep. So. Duel of the Fakes. Duel of the Fakes.
At what point do you say enough is enough? In 2012, we got the news the creator was selling his stories and his soul to Disney, but we never imagined just how bad things would get under this Mickey Mouse mistress. Everything is definitely not playing out as we have foreseen. From the lesser rehashing of A New Hope in 2015, calling itself The Force Awakens, to the latest fan fiction nightmare, The Last Jedi, which was a full frontal assault to original trilogy devotees, we are witnessing the end. We had a small spark of promise with Rogue One, but we can't forgive her for killing off the Boba Fett movie following the fan revolt of Solo, and now she's determined to close out the Skywalker saga under the direction of an idiot who couldn't figure out how to properly end an incredibly successful TV series. This woman has her finger on the franchise. That should terrify you all. Use that fear, turn it into anger, fill it with seething hate, and join us and tell your congressman he has an obligation to the fanboys to keep Star Wars pure of social justice filth and diversity quotas. Sign the petition at cathclean.gov and let your voices cry out across the galaxy, our galaxy, so that a long time from now you won't have to tell your younglings you did nothing while this vile fraud destroyed a franchise.
Well, Teeb, this is a magnanimous moment here on the podcast where we have another poll. It's one of our favorite bits. People are constantly doing these polls on Twitter, asking which part of Faking Star Wars Radio do you like as the best part, and the poll is frequently one of the things that people respond to as their favorite part. So,
I'm glad to be a part of this segment.
Yes.
Then.
Well, this particular poll is not a like a meta poll about polls, but it's comes to us from Willie Bobo at Faking Star Wars on Twitter, and
I know that guy.
Yeah, you heard of him before, right?
I have. He's famous.
He's ubiquitous on Twitter. Actually, 1/3 of all tweets on Twitter are tweeted by Willie Bobo. Little known fact.
Ah, interesting.
So that means that if you are reading a tweet, you have a 33% chance that Willie Bobo originally wrote it. So
that checks out.
I know. His goal for 2019 is to bring that up to 50%. So all you have to do is flip a coin. So, yeah. So issue 25 of the Darth Vader comic book series strongly hints at Darth Sidious being Anakin Skywalker's father. There's been a lot of speculation about that going back all the way to Revenge of the Sith when, Sheev Palpatine told Anakin about the midichlorians being, manipulated to create life. Now it seems like this comic book is going to be picking up on that theme and possibly developing it a little bit more. What do you think about that?
I think it holds about as much credibility as our Clay story from last week.
Oh, right. Yes, the Fake-O-Meter didn't like that one. Well,
No.
According to your headcanon, who is Vader's real father? Here are your choices. Darth Plagueis, Darth Sidious, the Force, or Qui-Gon Jinn?
Unlike the rumors that are going around, I do not have a head cannon. I have a butt cannon.
Oh, okay.
And it shoots out shards of the Force.
Wow. That's an image that I had hoped that would not ruin my 2019 as it already ruined my 2018. But thanks for that.
I had to destroy your hopes and dreams.
So you don't have a particular choice here, or what do you think?
Give me the choices again, and do it in a silly accent.
Okay. Wow. Any particular country or Star Wars character, or?
It could be anything from the Star Wars or anything from your insane imagination. I don't know. Surprise me.
How about if I do an Italian, doing a Russian accent, doing Salacious Crumb?
Ooh, I like that.
And Darth Plagueis, Darth Sidious, the Force, Qui-Gon Jinn.
That sounded a lot more like Watto, but I'll go with it.
Well.
I would have to
Italian
say the Force.
Jew, they have a lot of overlap in their.
I would have to say the Force because it's the Force. He's an immaculate conception with the midichlorians. The midichlorians, they all did things to Shmi.
It's like
Kinda like
that
Freddy
galactic
Krueger.
sperm bank in the sky, the midichlorians.
Well, it's like Freddy Krueger. They all, got together and nobody really knows who the father is. It's just one of the many billions of midichlorians that decided to get with her.
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
That is the favorite choice so far. And this poll has had over 50 votes already. And 48% of our respondents responded with the Force. And second is Darth Plagueis with 21%, then Darth Sidious, and 13%, bringing up the proverbial rear in this case, can't get someone pregnant that way, is Qui-Gon Jinn. So I'm interested in the comic. I haven't read it yet. Have you read it? Are you planning to read it?
Well, here's the thing. I have read the first 5 or 6 of the Darth Vader books, the comics, but I haven't. I stopped because they were free, and I'm a cheap son of a Sith.
Well, you've got to save up money for popcorn for when Episode 9 comes out in December, right?
What's that?
You have to save up money for popcorn for when Episode 9 comes out in December, right?
Oh, I don't eat popcorn.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a fun fact about me. I hate popcorn.
Amazing.
So make sure you write that down somewhere, because don't ever bring that up again, and we'll be fine.
I'll make sure to write that down in my book of do and don'ts. Yes,
that'll work. No, but I am going to read the next, or not the next. I'm going to skip ahead. I read through the up to 5, and now I'm going to skip ahead because I love our listeners so much. I'm going to read the 25th issue where they supposedly reveal this nonsense, and then we can talk about it on the next cast. So stay tuned.
So the implication, I guess, is that Darth Sidious, learned from Plagueis how to manipulate the midichlorians, and then possibly did it unwittingly, maybe even, that he managed to create such a vergence that it created life, but he didn't know it was successful, and then maybe found out later. Is that kind of the idea of this?
It sounds kind of ridiculous to me, and that's why I want to read the book, because I think she was actually already pregnant, and he used the Force to infuse the Force onto this child.
Like a fine sachet of green tea.
Sure.
Right. So he got his little Force tea bag, Sheev teabagged Shmi while Anakin was in the womb?
You're saying that... Let me understand this. You're saying that Sheev Palpatine teabagged Shmi, and that's how we got Darth Vader, the most badass.
It makes sense to me. I don't know.
Now I really have to read it because, yeah.
But now you know where Disney gets their ideas
I don't know.
for
Kari
their
Kari
movies.
sounds like a good option.
Yeah. Well, let us know how it turns out on the next episode, or when we have you back on the show. But for now, we have still a lot of time to speculate wildly about the verifiability of this rumor, and it'll be interesting to see what Disney has in store for us.
Well, who does Shmi live with?
C-3PO.
And?
Anakin.
And?
Am I missing something? I don't know. Who else?
Her master?
Oh, Watto.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Anakin could be Watto's bastard child, too. I never considered that.
He was pretty, reluctant to give up his slaves, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. That's true. And in a way, if you think about it, they both have the same sort of steely exterior and unwillingness to compromise. So,
if Watto isn't Darth Vader's father, perhaps he's Thrawn's father. He is blue after all.
Oh, that could be. Yeah.
He has to be somebody's father, because otherwise he's just some weird junk merchant that flies around like a gnat.
He's a Toydarian, and I mean, aren't they the first kind of subplot of like the Clone Wars? Isn't that the very first episode has a Toydarian kind of dispute between? It's like Yoda versus the Huntress. What's her name? The Sith Huntress. Ventress, yes. So they're like kind of staging against each other on this planet, and Yoda like basically shows her how it's done. And I think the Toydarians then decide to join the rebellion or something like that.
Really?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't
So
remember
Watto has seen it all. He's been around the block. His species, I guess, have their own planet and stuff. So who really knows how many bastard children he's sired in the galaxy? Maybe that's the theme of Rian Johnson's new trilogy, actually.
Well, he says that he's not a weak-minded fool, so he can't be manipulated by he only credits work on him, not force tricks or mind tricks or whatever. But then he doesn't even seem to know that Qui-Gon Jinn just kind of flipped the dice. Like, he never realizes that, like, the Force, he can use it to just kind of move the dice over. He never catches on to that.
Yeah, and Qui-Gon was very subtle by moving his hand slowly over across his body at the same time that the dice moved. So I could see how he could have had trouble picking that up.
Yeah, just never go to Vegas with Watto, because you're going to walk out with no money. That's for sure.
Craps with Watto. Great.
Craps with Watto. That's a T-shirt right there.
Absolutely. All right. Well,
with the luck dice, or the chance dice, or whatever they are.
A chance cube. It's not a dice, it's a cube, right?
Yes.
So, I just happen to have a chance cube handy in my ball sack purse that I wear. Oh,
nice
gosh.
coin purse.
Like, who is designing that garbage? It's amazing. So, like, that's what a I guess that's what a flighted species would wear, because their backpack would get all encumbered in their wings. So it's like a little fanny pack for a Toydarian.
Do you think he uses a toilet, or he just kind of just goes wherever he is, because he can fly around and he just kind of it wasn't me, and just he's out of there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm really thinking about Watto a lot today. I don't know. He's been on my mind a lot. He needs more love. Justice for Watto. Justice for Watto. # Justice for Watto.
Galactic Faking News. And we're back. Well, we have a very, very special guest with me today, none other than DerpFakes. Now, if you're not familiar with DerpFakes, that's DerpFakes, I suggest that you Google it and check out the YouTube channel, DerpFakes, as well. This is going to be a really, really interesting interview. Now, we've never met in person. We've just talked very briefly.
Yeah. 5 minutes.
Tell us in a nutshell what got you into doing what you do, and explain a little bit about what you were doing with some of the Han Solo material that you created, and how you got into this.
Sure. So back in about January, late January of 2018, there was a subreddit that came up called DerpFakes, and the initial creator, the user DerpFakes, he uploaded some scripts. They were Python scripts, and they essentially allowed faces to be swapped on video. And you might be familiar with things like on Instagram and Snapchat, there's all these kind of face swapping things, but it's like a very advanced version of that. Initially, people used it, the original uploader used it to create pornographic material, swapping famous actresses onto inappropriate videos, and that's kind of the direction that community was going in.
I think they actually took my face and used it in several of their initial videos. I am a very handsome man, so I was very upset by that. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what the reactions of these actresses were, but I can't imagine that they were favorable.
It's what I've always wanted to do, be in a pornographic video for free. There's just people lining up, let me in.
Exactly. So having kind of seen where it was going, where it was all headed, I decided I was going to look at the scripts and see what they did and try my own thing out with it.
So is your background more in computer coding or more video production, or both?
By trade, I'm not involved in any of the above.
I see.
It's very much a hobby. And it was more the video kind of thing, but I've always been into visual effects and video editing and things like that. And
it must have taken you some time to get used to the script and be able to apply it in a way that worked, I suppose.
Sure. I mean, I've got enough knowledge of every aspect of the process to be able to create something acceptable. And it's still, I mean, trial and error is the key with the whole thing, really. It's a case of learning what works, what doesn't work. And even then, I would say maybe 30% of what I make actually makes the cut. And even then, some of it isn't that great. It's still early days for the technology.
Well, we really appreciate that you're using your technology for safe for work videos, because Faking Star Wars Radio and our website as well prides itself on remaining PG-13 at our worst. So can you kind of explain why you've adopted that sort of strict decency policy and maybe going a little bit more in the humor vein with this technology?
Sure. So the original video that I uploaded to my YouTube channel was from Rogue One, and it was the Princess Leia shot right at the end of the movie. And the CGI team at Industrial Light and Magic, they had taken an actress who looked very, very similar to Carrie Fisher in terms of face shape and things like that, and they had essentially spent God knows how much money and a lot of time CGIing Carrie Fisher's face onto the original actress, who kind of was standing in, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I decided, hey, there's data, in terms of I can go to A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. I can take Carrie Fisher's face from frames from those movies, and I can apply it to this at the end of Rogue One.
So you're basically making a fake of a fake, essentially. Yeah.
And it was
love
just
it. We love it.
It was complete curiosity. There was no kind of thinking behind it in terms of the ethics or anything like that. That kind of thing definitely became more of a focus for me later on, particularly as the attention of the whole early subreddit and my work, it grew and it became a much bigger thing. Back then, I was just a guy making a video that I thought would be kind of fun. Sure. And as my videos kind of progressed, I started to think, hey, you know, the original community, it's doing what it's doing. And I didn't have an interest in that. I thought that the uses could actually be way broader and much more safe for work than what those guys were doing. And it's just continued from there, really. You know, I've done a number of Star Wars things, but I've done all kinds of things, and it is usually humor based. And I think the reason for that is that people they read a lot of news articles about deepfakes and the intense kind of scrutiny that it's under, and rightly so. But I don't think it's all bad. And I like to kind of show that there's a bit of fun and there's other capabilities to people. And it's going to go down that road one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, the Wild West is here, right? So some way or other, they're going to figure out what it is with this technology. I mean, I know Adobe has a program that they've been working on for several years that will let you fake somebody's voice as well. I don't know where that technology is yet in terms of being marketable or useful for film or for, you know, other things, but I'm sure eventually, I mean, I'm sure it already has become important for like politics and things like that. So you're right. I mean, it's things are definitely changing, and you know, we're really at the forefront of this because we understand that this technology really at its core is designed for entertainment. It's designed to make people happy, and that's why here with the podcast we're all about, you know, fakery and for the sake of people and just enjoying their lives and not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, but do it in a way that's more wholesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I didn't have the permission of any of the people I've used, but I've tried to do it in the most respectful way I could. And in time, it will definitely get to a point where these people do give permission and they give data sets themselves. So they can be in, whether it's movies or commercials or whatever it may be, where they're part of the process rather than a third party to it.
Well, I mean, I'm imagining a world in which people could pay you to do like a birthday card where they send you, you know, pictures of their, you know, website CEO or whatever, and then you put that person into his favorite scene of Star Wars, right?
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
So we could take Kathleen Kennedy, for example, and we could turn her into Amilyn Holdo from The Last Jedi for a scene and send that to her and, you know, thank her for all the work she's done to keep Star Wars going.
Yeah. Something like that.
So, you know, Nicolas Cage, I guess, kind of seems to be your muse. You've, you know, most of your videos, not most, but a lot of them have him, you know, in the video. Where did your obsession with him kind of start, I guess?
I don't really know, to be honest. I think part of it was just internet culture. Part of it was the fact that once you have one data set, which comprises of all these images from different angles with different lighting and so on of a person's face, you can reuse that data set. So I had a good one for Nicolas Cage, and the rest is history.
I see. So it's sort of like once you build your sandbox, then it's easier to play in it if you use the same character. Exactly. Yeah. Interesting. You know, imagine he was in a Star Wars film. Like, what character would you like to replace with Nicolas Cage if you had a chance? You know, looking back at maybe the original trilogy or something, who would you sub in with Nicolas Cage's face? There's so much to think about. So you've got the face shape, you've got the body type, you've got whether the actual original footage is suitable in terms of the angle and the lighting and all these different things. And even the performance, right? I mean, because if they're doing some sort of extreme facial performance, I'm sure that affects the way the data maps onto it in some way. Exactly, yeah. So you've got to kind of consider all these things. And off the top of my head, I mean, I can't think of... I mean, maybe Tarkin, even. He's kind of got a thin face. Early Nicolas Cage might work. I was thinking Obi-Wan Kage-Obi, you know? I mean, I think he could really bring it home. And just that sultry voice too. If you could change the voice as well, right? I mean, it's like Luke, I'm your father,
But would that be Ewan McGregor, or would we be going old school with that?
Oh boy, I don't know. You might be wise to start with Alec Guinness. I mean, he's already dead. He can't come back and sue you. So may he rest in peace. Both. Yeah, we don't want to insult Alec Guinness. We're big fans of his on the podcast. But so one of the latest DerpFakes that you've done, well, it's in the last few months, was when you replaced Alden Ehrenreich's face in several scenes from Solo, a Star Wars story. And was that because you didn't care for his performance, or you just wanted to, see what you could do with Harrison Ford, or was it because of some kind of, dislike of the movie, or what was your thinking in terms of that process?
I mean, myself, and I know millions of fans around the world, it's part of their childhood. There's this kind of this deeper feeling towards the old movies and those characters. I didn't think that he did a bad job in the new Solo movie, but I think a lot of people wanted to see it, myself included, with Harrison Ford, a young Harrison Ford in that role. And
one of the things that I thought was kind of fascinating was there were moments where I actually wasn't sure what I was looking at. I wasn't sure now, are all the shots Solo? Like, are they all Harrison Ford? Or is there one or two that's Alden Ehrenreich? Because it's almost beguiling to the mind. I mean, it's sometimes very hard to actually tell the difference when they have the same hair, same costume, same voice and performance. It's almost like the face isn't that important in terms of passing the information on to the brain. I don't know. Have you experienced that at all when you're doing that? Like when you're creating these videos, you're like, wait a minute, have I faked it yet or not? Or is this real?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sometimes I'll be watching kind of the rough cut, so to speak, after I've done the initial the initial training and everything with the script, and I'll think, hey, is this a merge between the two of them? Is it one? Is it the other? Because your brain is telling you it's not Harrison Ford, but then your eyes are saying it is, but maybe it isn't. I don't know. It's kind of it's not 100%, and that kind of 10 or 20% either way does throw your brain off, and you're not entirely sure what you're looking at.
That's kind of the creep factor, involved in doing these kind of digital creations of faces. And I think it's one of the reasons why the technology is still in development. I mean, Hollywood has kind of shied away from that. We've talked about that before on the podcast, this idea of the uncanny valley, where, the closer you get to reality without it being actually real, then there's sort of like a disgust reaction that happens and rejects it. But I think you're getting really close to crossing that, which is just absolutely amazing. The processing power, I mean, to do this on a computer, I mean, what kind of machine do you need to create this kind of stuff?
It's not like a specialist unit. It's not a workstation.
So, I mean, this is consumer grade stuff that can do this kind of power?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyone can do it. Anyone with a decent budget can go ahead and do exactly what I've done.
Is this going to go mobile? I mean, that will really change things.
Yeah, I mean, within the next few years, potentially, you could have a very high-end product.
So then it would just be about creating a user interface that could work on phones, and then the processing stuff happens in the cloud, right?
Yeah.
So if you have any interest in partnering with Faking Star Wars on an app to allow people to fake their own faces on any Star Wars scene of their choosing, I can assure you that we would definitely be interested in going down that road. So,
well, I would be happy, but I can't because of contractual obligations. So, unfortunately, yeah.
Has being DerpFakes now, has this changed your sort of vocation, or have you had job offers come out of it, or any kind of things like that?
Yeah, I mean, without too much detail,
yeah,
a lot of people have approached me, and there's one which kind of stood out to me, and I think that's the road that I'm going to go down. There's nothing set in stone by any means, but the process is definitely underway.
So if you're not working as a lead animator, graphic designer on Star Wars Episode 9, then don't not say anything after I ask you this question. Okay, Wow, so you really are. You're on episode 9. That's fantastic. I know you can't share anything, but I mean, we're really hoping to see how this technology might be played out. You know, what would you do for episode 9? I mean, this has been a big question with Leia, and I mean, you actually might be on episode 9. I don't know, but in terms of just bringing her back, I mean, we have to send her off, right? I know people have speculated what's going to happen with her character. Do you think your technology could be used in a way to give her that send-off that we all are really wanting in the final installment?
In theory, yes. I would say it's not quite there yet. Not for, feature-length, big blockbuster movie, especially the likes of Star Wars. I don't think it's quite there. Okay. But having said that, maybe. I don't know. I mean, Disney has a lot of resources.
Sure.
Who knows?
Have you been contacted by any lawyers asking you to take down any of your creative work? We have been. We're constantly deluged by people telling us to take down stories we've written. So if you have, that's something we could give you some advice on.
Actually, no.
Oh, wow.
No
You're
lawyers.
very fortunate. If you do need a good lawyer, better call Maul. He's always available for a very modest retainer. So,
lots of reporters, but no lawyers.
Okay, very good. Well, I can tell from your accent that you're not from New York. I'm trying to place you in the United States, and I haven't traveled very much here. I am in the U.S. myself. So where exactly are you from in the U.S.?
From New York.
Oh, really? Okay, wonderful. Yeah. But seriously, I mean, I'm guessing that you're working over in the UK. Is that correct?
Yeah, just outside London.
Just outside London. Okay, and I know that a lot of the Star Wars movies are shot actually in the UK for tax reasons, and they get a lot of help from the government to shoot those movies over there. Do you think being a fan in England, do you think there's a different focus when it comes to Star Wars compared to maybe some of the American fandom, even online? I mean, there's a lot of the American Star Wars fans are very, very noisy, but I know that there's a lot of British Star Wars podcasts and fans as well. I've had some interaction with some of them, but in my experience, there's a little different emphasis, I guess, in terms of reliving the movies and enjoying them. Do you find that to be the case?
I mean, Star Wars is huge over here. Maybe not quite the same as in America, but I mean, for me, myself and all of my friends going way back, we loved Star Wars, and we got involved with premieres and making fan-made videos and all these kind of things. And I think the love over here is pretty much on par with the US. I think just because a lot of it is filmed over here, there's no particular extra love or different outlook on it.
It's not like, when they shot the Lord of the Rings trilogy in New Zealand, right? I mean, you're in England, they're used to these big blockbuster films being shot over there, so it's sort of been there, done that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's Pinewood Studios where a lot of Star Wars was filmed, and we've had James Bond being filmed there for 50, 60 years now.
Right.
I think, yeah, I mean, I would say that most Star Wars fans, sort of casual fans in the UK, don't even know that it's filmed here. Huh. There's not that kind of big association, really.
Well, we'd like to, have you back on the podcast. Do you have any plans in the future for any new DerpFakes? I know you got to kind of keep some of this stuff secret, but any more ideas for future Star Wars related DerpFakes?
Yeah, a few. I mean, talking of Alec Guinness, there's the whole Ewan McGregor, Alec Guinness kind of swap over.
Oh, especially with the speculation about a new Obi-Wan film. I think that would be a good one. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. There's definitely going to be more Star Wars DerpFakes in the future.
We'd love to see you take Jar Jar's face and fake it onto Emperor Palpatine, because we all know that he actually is the same person deep down. Right? So,
the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
I think maybe George Lucas should make an appearance at some point as well.
Oh, absolutely, yes. Put him on the Rancor monster or the Sarlacc pit. Very good. Well, you have a YouTube channel called DerpFakes, Do you have any other things you'd like to promote? I know you have a Patreon. Would you like to tell our fans a little bit about that?
Sure. So my Patreon is patreon.com/DerpFakes. There's a few different tiers there, which range from $5 just to kind of help me out all the way up to $100 if you want one-on-one assistance with creating your own stuff or advice about how to take your work forward. Obviously, that's only safe for work stuff. I'm not going to help out with your weird whatever it is you're making.
Like if somebody wants to do a XXX rated scene between a Gungan and a Hutt, you're not going to have that.
Well, I mean, that maybe. But anything else, no.
That would be artful, right? So, well, we do hope that we have a few Patreon supporters here, and anything we can do to get you some exposure. But it sounds like you may not need any. I mean, you've been interviewed by several different news outlets lately. What was your oddest or most exciting interview that you've done in the last few months, other than this one, of course?
This has actually been one of the more fun ones. A lot of the guys who contacted me, particularly early on, were very, why are you doing this? Kind of negative from the outset, and I don't really appreciate that. Right. I think for me, perhaps the biggest one was the New York Times, because it kind of went from online things, Vice and things like that, and New York Times was the first big news corporation to contact me, and that was kind of when I thought, all right, okay, we're getting somewhere.
All right. Well, it's been a real pleasure having you on, and we look forward to collaborating on that app in the future and bringing fans' dreams to reality together.
It's going to happen sooner or later.
Yes,
it's going to happen.
It's my Christmas present this year. So. All right, very good. Well, we look forward to seeing your work in the future. Thanks a lot, Derp.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Okay. The following is a paid advertisement by Fuzzy Feelings Fandom Counseling Services.
The dawn of the new year gives us Star Wars fans a time to reflect on both the triumphs and failures of the franchise in 2018. From juicy Episode 9 rumors to a Han Solo that was too short in stature, we've all suffered through the ups and downs in our relationship with the Star Wars universe. For some of us, the stress of being a superfan is a heavy burden. Is the stress causing you to have trouble controlling your angry tweets? Have you lost a job due to a Star Wars-related outburst? Do you feel like you just can't even? Contact the counselors at Fuzzy Feelings Fandom Counseling Service.
Here at Fuzzy Feelings Fandom Counseling Services, we offer top-notch treatment for Kathleen Kennedy-related anger issues, itchy Twitter fingers, existential dread about the ruination of your childhood, and many other kinds of fan-related dysfunction. Our licensed counselors are ready to help you address your very serious and important Star Wars franchise-related problems. Take it from some of our satisfied clients.
Hi, my name is Tiffany. I'm a waitress at Applebee's, and I was so freaked out this year because there's no franchise film. So I was eating piles and piles and piles of poutine, freaking piles of poutine. I gained 10 pounds in a couple of weeks. So I met with the counselors at Fuzzy Feelings Fandom Counseling Services, and it just worked wonders. I mean, I feel so much more even. I feel so much more zen, and I'm eating 400 calories a day, and I'm back to my normal self drinking Diet Coke. So thank you, Fuzzy Feelings Fandom Counseling Services.
My name is George. I had it legally changed from Ryan after The Last Jedi. I was just too stressed and couldn't deal with the fact that rat bastard had the same name as me. And I even went so far as to, at my friend's house, show him that he was wrong for purchasing The Last Jedi on Blu-ray. And when I attempted to burn it with a lighter, I accidentally burned his house down. I'm currently serving 3 to 5 years at a state penitentiary in northern Pennsylvania. And the great thing about the counseling services is that they come to me, which I find very helpful because no other court-appointed counseling would take me on. And since I've been here, they've been able to help me understand that The Last Jedi is just a movie and that I will do better here amongst my peers if I don't make lightsaber sounds in the shower when I urinate, and that I also can spend my time pretending to lift rocks in the yard with my mind, and everybody will just leave me alone. If you're having trouble coping with the Disney era of Star Wars, then I highly recommend FFFCS. It is for you. It is for me. And please, if you're listening, burn other people's Blu-rays of The Last Jedi. It needs to happen.
2019 is going to be a fandom roller coaster. Don't let Star Wars ruin your entire life. Contact counselors at Fuzzy Feelings Fandom Counseling Services before it's too late.
So, Drivel, I mean, what do you think of that interview with DerpFakes? I mean, this technology, powerful, dangerous, exciting. I mean, what's your first impression?
I mean, it's really getting crazy. I think the implications in terms of, since we're faking Star Wars, and with the amount of fake news that will be out there, we can't be too many months or years away. You know, I've seen some where they've taken Kate McKinnon's lines from or appearances on Saturday Night Live as Hillary Clinton, for example, and they've put Hillary Clinton's face over top of it, and it looks 99% real. You know, look how much work ILM put into recreating Tarkin for Rogue One, and it looks good, but it doesn't look that good. Like some of these like deep fakes and derp fake stuff looks more real on somebody's home computer with the sort of, literally amateur technology on a laptop. If that's the technology now, where is it going to be in 5 years or 10 years? We'll never know what's real or fake again. I did that Star Wars The Void, where you get to be a stormtrooper and you wear wear the VR gear, and like all of that technology. It's frightening because it's always going to be used for the worst things first before it's used for popular entertainment. But I think DerpFakes, just what he did with that Solo trailer, just really popularized what it could be. And I think it made a lot of people think, why didn't they just use Harrison Ford's image for the movie and get Alden to be the body stand? Like, they did that with the Social Network where they had Arnie Hammer play the twins. There was another actor always playing the twin, and then they digitized his head over top of it. Or Benjamin Button with Brad Pitt. It's not out of the Hollywood realm, but they spend millions to do it, whereas somebody on their home computer now can just say, I can do it as good as Hollywood.
Get on Amazon and buy like a souped up video card for your computer, and the rest is history,
Yeah.
And Sheev Palpatine is making out with Donald Trump, in the next episode of Shards of the Empire, that YouTube video, that the Star Wars theory's going, I think
Shards
that'd be
of
great.
The Empire, yeah.
Yeah.
I love,
Shards of the Past or whatever.
Speaking of that, fan films are always great because they get the aesthetic right. They do some interesting things, but man, oh man, does the acting suck. Always.
It's terrible, right?
It's just,
yeah.
It holds them all back, and maybe I'm just a little too critical that I can't buy in, but I'll give them credit for this. Shards of the Empire, is that what it's called?
I think it's Shards of the Past.
Shards
maybe?
of the Past, something. I mean, they're trying to give something to fans about Vader that we didn't get to see enough of in the prequels. Right. And it's better than 99% of fan films, which is two people running around in Jedi bathrobes in a forest, and then they encounter one of the famous villains and have to have a 7-minute lightsaber fight set to pre-existing Star Wars music. So
Yep.
I give them mad props because the production design, and I don't know who the filmmakers are behind it, but it's high caliber. I imagine it's done on the fraction of the budget that a Hollywood movie is. So it's just always like any story. It's always the story and the acting come first, and there's just some holes there where you just wish, if you're going to go through all of this trouble and have it look this beautiful, maybe
have somebody read it who has some experience in
first.
creating a movie. Like, don't just go with it, kind of,
And honestly, like, I think that Lucasfilm should just give money to some of these people and say, hey, go make a short video, especially with the Disney Plus streaming platform. Imagine if there were just fully funded Star Wars shorts where they went, you know what? We're thinking about doing an Old Republic movie or TV series. I mean, obviously they already are. I'm just using it as an example, but why not just here you go. Here's $50,000, $100,000. Go make something, and they could test the waters and see what fans are into, but have the access to Skywalker Sound and the Lucasfilm Story Group and everything else to make it happen.
Kind of rein it in and just be a donut of security around everything they produced, right? So they're never crossing that line where it's just like, this is a fan film. We can't
be far away from a Star Wars Choose Your Own Adventure movie like we just got with Black Mirror.
The Netflix thing, yeah, the Bandersnatch or whatever it was called, right? Well, I mean, I was thinking about that with Netflix and the DerpFakes too. I think those things are going to go hand in hand eventually, where you're going to see the fan interaction. It's actually, we're headed to a world where there is going to be a new genre of art, right? That's not film.
You're going to be able to pick what actors you want in a movie.
Yeah,
you're going to be like, I think that Elizabeth Moss was miscast in Handmaid's Tale, so it should have been Alicia Silverstone as she was in the Aerosmith video, skirt and all. Ding, that's what I want to watch. You'll be able to have the ultimate mashup. That's probably not that far away.
2019 is looking bright, so there you go.
Or you can just say, I'm going to use DerpFakes to make Bird Box just that fireplace screensaver so that I don't have to watch Bird Box.
Right.
Faking Star Wars listener mail.
Well, you know what that sound means, Lord Drivel. It's time for listener mail.
We have listeners?
Well, not only do we have listeners, but we also have listeners who go to the post office and buy stamps and put them on envelopes and send us mail, believe it or not.
That's impressive. Okay,
yeah,
great.
It's amazing, right? So
do you have a lightsaber letter opener to open said mail?
I do. It's actually got Sheev Palpatine's face carved on the handle. So
all these weeks, I've assumed that we just had all fans that were male.
I know.
But I guess gender isn't a thing anymore. So
well, next week we're going to have our listener female. So we only have one of those. So, but I also wanted to mention, you can join our Discord server. If you're not familiar with Discord, it's an app that you can download. You can get on our website and find out what our Discord channel is, and you can chat with us any time of day. There's somebody on there talking about the latest fake news in Star Wars land, and so that's another way you can contact us. So if you haven't gotten onto our Discord server, go to our website and look up Discord and download the app. It's free. It works great. It's a really good tool. So,
and honestly, recommend Faking Star Wars in the Discord for Faking Star Wars to your true Star Wars fans, because anybody who is unhappy with the constant news they're getting out of the regular Kathleen Kennedy and Ryan Johnson ruined everything. Sometimes faking news is just a lot of fun.
That's right. That's right. And we always are looking for new people to help co-host as well. So you can start there. You started as a lowly tweet bot, didn't you, Drivel? And you've worked your ways up in the ranks to become a co-host.
I worked in the tweet room, and now I am standing on top of the world.
Yeah. We're an equal opportunity employer. So, yeah. Well, this question comes to us from Grey Walker, who is female, I should say. I misgendered her on our last listener mail. I am very apologetic for that. But anyway, she writes, in The Force Awakens, there's a moment when Rey is pointing for Finn to hand her some tape to fix BB-8. But when the frame cuts to another shot, she's pointing with a different hand. Does this mean that Rey is ambidextrous? Oh, what a fascinating question.
Well, I truly believe this is the mystery box telling us that she's going to have a lightsaber in each hand.
Wow.
A la, like Anakin Skywalker in the best lightsaber battle in Attack of the Clones when he's fighting Count Dooku. So I think in episode 9. So yes, correct. She is ambidextrous, and this is all a little hidden Easter egg to the fact that she will handle two lightsabers at once while fighting. I imagine Kylo Ren.
No, I mean, you don't want to misdexterous her by calling her right-handed or left-handed either. I mean, that's a point of serious.
It's true. We're all just handed people.
That's right. Hand neutral. I'm hand fluid myself. Actually, my hands are very fluid, if you know what I mean.
We all just do our hand jobs. It doesn't matter if it's right or left.
That's right. That's right. Another question from Bamboozle8, who says, "Why did Amidala," I can only assume he's writing about Queen Amidala. Why did Amidala keep Jar Jar around from episode 1 all the way through episode 3, even though he is a bumbling fool? Was there a secret relationship between the two of them we didn't know about? Well, my first guess here is you have seen in in The Phantom Menace, in the scene in Anakin's hovel, look at the length on Jar Jar's tongue. If that doesn't give you some idea about why she might have kept him around as a courtier, I don't think there's much else I can do for you in resolving the mystery. Drivel?
Much like the length of the current United States president's tie, there's a reason that Melania keeps such a bumbling fool around and allows him to interfere with Senate meetings.
There you go.
Basically, Jar Jar had to stay around to utter whatever one line where he accidentally starts the invasion or war or whatever thing I've tried to block from my mind about those films.
Fellow delegates. So.
Delofelegates.
That's right.
Yes. I don't know. Did she just feel bad for him? Is that just part of her queen nature that a good queen would rule over all subjects equally, so she wouldn't kick him out and leave the Gungans unrepresented in the Senate? Is she just being a good ruler, and by being so good-natured, it ended up leaving her dead, essentially?
This is like a question that I have about all these modern superhero films too. You've got these countries and super races with all this incredibly advanced technology and science and everything, and then if you saw Aquaman, they battle for this, the government of the whole society by fighting each other with a giant fork. It's just something about this does not make sense.
I have not seen Aquaman. Do you know why?
I do not.
It's Aquaman.
Right. But the same thing could be said about Black Panther. I mean, you got the most advanced society, and then they're fighting it out on top of a waterfall for power. It doesn't make sense. And why would the Nabooian government elect Jar Jar to be their representative in the Galactic Senate at all? It's just so preposterous that it really belies the
it's kind of like if after they gave. Does Chewbacca get a medal at the end of A New Hope? I know I'm a bad Star Wars fan right now. He doesn't, right? That he's been famously shunned. It would be if there's well, you were here, you helped with this battle, so you go run Alderaan now. Not Alderaan, whoops. Whatever.
Kashyyyk.
They put him in some high up power position just because he helped rescue Princess Leia. Usually they give those people the fluff jobs where you are the furry prince of flowers, where you don't really have any real power or anything to do. Jar Jar should have been given the captain of the Gungan swim team, or cleaning up the lakes around the palace in Naboo.
Right. But Star Wars suffers from this kind of nepotism, I guess.
I'm just gonna. I didn't say anything. I'm just gonna go ahead and say that it's the bad writing. That's the end of the story.
There you go.
No secret relationship, no reason to keep Jar Jar around, just bad, lazy writing and refusing to just doubling down on this character that nobody wanted to come back, and he had 3 years to think about and fix and remove entirely.
Right.
It should have been
total stubbornness.
The screenplay should have been Attack of the Clones, exterior, or Act 1, exterior, cliff, Jar Jar Binks walks to edge of cliff to look at magnificent view. Cliff edge falls from beneath him. Jar Jar Binks falls and dies a heroic death. Then we don't need him anymore.
There you go.
The sad thing is we never saw him die, so he could still come back.
He still may be alive, right? He survived the events of the Jedi Purge because he is a bumbling fool and could never be one targeted for vengeance by Lord, Sidious. Therefore, there's no reason to have him in the movie whatsoever because he's not central to the struggle of the film. So, sorry to make it so painfully obvious. But, yeah, there you go.
We spent a lot of time on this question. We should probably move on.
Yes. So if you have any questions for us, go ahead and hit us up on Twitter at DuperStorm or FSW Radio, and we'll answer your question here on the podcast. Darth Drivel, it has been it's wonderful to have you on the podcast, and one of the reasons we wanted to have you co-hosting this episode is because we're kind of looking to the new year with innovation and technology. In the Star Wars world, in the world of the films and the TV shows now that are coming up, but also kind of as a filmmaker, also thinking about development of effects and things like that. First of all, thinking about new technology as it's related to production, like Rogue One, and digital clothing has come a long way. Now we can put someone's face on a new character, like this DerpFakes. Where do you see things heading, I guess, for cinema in general, and also Star Wars in the coming years?
The one that's really interesting, it's been reported. I think it's on The Mandalorian, but I think they also employed it for Solo. It's sort of like the giant LCD wraparound screen that they had around the cockpit this time. So instead of using green screen or blue screen for all of the Millennium Falcon cockpit scenes or any other flight scenes, they just had a giant video screen. So they pre-animate like the Kessel Run or the hyperspace jumps. So the actors are able to see what they're looking at, and it looks photorealistic. And when they use the camera and point the camera out the window, they're seeing that video. They don't have to replace that later with a special effect. So I imagine for the actors, like for everybody, when you can see it really happening, it must add to the realism of it. But you also get the light reflecting on the actors correctly from whatever's there, from that environment, versus having to, okay, there's some pink and blue light, let's just shine that on them, and then we'll cut to the special effects and hope the special effects match what we did on the day.
And it also allows for more interaction then, in a sense, between the effects and the real actors, right? I mean, they can kind of move however they want in the cockpit or do whatever, and they're going to be lit correctly then.
But the way I understand is they're using a similar thing with the Mandalorian. So like instead of like a piece of blue screen that will be replaced later, that set extension or city extension or whatever it is already there.
Wow. And
it's photorealistic for the camera. So the actors, everybody can get a sense of what it's going to look like right there. But the way it's designed is, I don't know what the technology is called, but some sort of like motion tracking, so that the camera pans left or turns that animated screen. The image on the screen knows to rotate and turn with the camera, so it keeps the correct perspective of however the camera's looking at it,
like
the camera's
parallax
moving,
or whatever. I mean that because this kind of the idea of putting a background in has essentially started with like matte paintings, and before, I mean, even with Wizard of Oz, they had these giant painted backgrounds. That's essentially what they're doing, but it's just more refined.
Well, they had in animation, I think it was. Oh, forgive me. It might be Snow White, but I forget what Disney called it, but they had the multiplane. I don't know if you ever saw the giant machine where the camera would be set on the top looking down, and they had several layers of animation. So they could have like the shrubbery in the foreground painted on a cell up close, then the road, then the background, so that the further something away is, the less it moves versus what's in front. If you ever look at the window of a moving car or train, or video games got, by the time they got to 16-bit, they could do a little bit of sort of multiplane movement. But Disney pioneered that with animation, and I feel like this is similar to that. It's just the now like 3D, fully CGI realistic screen rendering that moves in the same multiplane way that moves correctly as the camera moves.
And then also probably they've developed the technology to make those screens, cheaper. I mean, with the LCD screens. I mean, I purchased several television sets in the last year, 55-inch HD 4K TV sets for like $300. We just decided to go ahead and buy 100 of them, and we use them as wallpaper because it's cheaper than actually having our home re-wallpapered.
It really is. And then you can load up every single Star Wars movie, TV special, Christmas special, episode of Rebels ever, and just no matter where you are, you can be fully immersed as a fan.
Well, see, that's the idea. I mean, I saw, the Star Wars marketing and stuff is always about Star Wars-izing people's lives, right? I mean, turning their entire life into just basically a river of Star Wars content. And I saw recently they had the, I think it's called Fuel of the Force, and it's sort of a Star Wars endeavor to try to get fans out and about, active, active mind, active body. And so I was thinking to myself, well, this is a problem actually, because this is going to take time away from people actually watching Star Wars. 24/7, because the only time that I'm not watching Star Wars is when I'm recording the podcast. So
nobody wants active Star Wars fans. It's going to significantly decrease sales of corn dogs called something Star Wars name at the theme parks, at Comic-Con. You do not want active Star Wars fans. You will limit your marketing budget for who's buying the Lucky Charms, the Pepsi products, the Taco Bell cup toppers. It's just that's just a terrible, terrible marketing strategy, and not really a technological, like a Force bit instead of a Fitbit or whatever. That's all. It's hodgepodge. It should never go. I do think one of the interesting things is, remember, it used to take them. They'd shoot a Star Wars movie and it would take 3 years to finish the effects. Now, Episode 9 hasn't finished. They're not even done writing it. They're doing rewrites and then going back to shoot some more. And they have this, the fact that it's coming out in December and they haven't finished shooting, and you're like, so the rendering power of computers, the technological advancements for special effects. I look at when they did L337 in Solo. Again, they had the actress Phoebe Waller-Bridge play. She had the robotic suit on with a green unitard so that they could, like, all the inner working parts, and then they do a blend of animation, which I didn't realize until I just assumed it was a fully CG character. Right, but it makes blended. It more real and makes it blend. We really do live in a time where, once they can figure out stories that everyone will be happy with, or characters that they want to see expanded or told correctly, it's the best time. No matter what you say about The Last Jedi story-wise, it is the best-looking Star Wars movie ever. It is gorgeously shot. The colors, the technology, the special effects, everything in that movie is absolutely technically perfect.
So do you think now that the technology has sort of caught up with imagination and what's capable to be done, do you think they should just go back and remake the prequels?
I think they're going to remake the original trilogy first.
Okay.
They don't even really call it Star Wars Episode 7: The Force Awakens. It does in the title, but none of the marketing did that. All the official marketing was just Star Wars
thing,
The Force Awakens, and they did it in a way where you don't have to see Episode 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, and 3 to enjoy The Force Awakens. You can enter that story and not know who, the same way that you can enter Episode 4 and not know the backstory of Episode 1, 2, and 3. But in Disney's mind, especially now that they own Fox and that they own the entire saga, including the original film, they must be thinking, we can do George Lucas's ultimate super duper special edition, or we could remake it. Like, it's not, people think, oh, that's precious and they'll never do it. They'll do it if there's money involved. And if they can say, hey, it will look better with today's standards, I can see them doing it. The prequels, I feel like the prequels shouldn't be remade.
I mean, one of the things we did with the prequels was we actually went through a buddy of mine, and we actually said the parts that we liked. So the most memorable part from each movie. And it was interesting. I mean, as I've grown, there have been a few moments of the prequels where I could say, like, yeah, that really did feel like Star Wars.
Of course, there's things that, there's things that look great, but that's similar to saying, like, that was the freshest, most crisp, watery piece of lettuce I've ever had. It was delicious on a burger of rotten meat with a stale bun and, a year-old ketchup that hadn't been put back in the fridge. Like, it ultimately doesn't matter. It has to be a sum of all parts. Right. And there's just not enough, especially, for me, those movies deteriorated as they went. I believe The Phantom Menace is the best of the three. It's the one that looks the most like a movie because it was actually shot on film before they switched to digital. Yep. It didn't have Hayden Christensen in it. And it wasn't just all CG. They had built some sets, and it wasn't just this George Lucas's special effects demo reel of like, look what we can do for cheap. But yeah, I just think they should not remake that. And I think those movies look more dated and worse than the original films now, because they were in that time period of like the Scorpion King, where CG was not being used to its greatest advantage. It hadn't arrived yet. Like for all the crap that Jar Jar Binks gets, he still looks very photorealistic from the Phantom Menace, and that's before they were doing motion capture and any of that. That's pre Gollum, that's pre Andy Serkis, that's pre Weta figuring any of that motion capture stuff out. That was just the animators making it look, ILM's always done a good job with skin textures and things like that. So I think open source has changed a lot of things for special effects, because if somebody like DerpFakes invents or improves on a technology, they can share those improvements instantly with the experts, with the companies that build the technology, Adobe for editing. Like all of these things just help massively to improve the quality and the speed at which developments in technology happen. Cameras get better and better year after year. Digital cinema projection, cinema sound. What are we at? 9.1 surround now, or Dolby Atmos, where you have speakers in the ceiling. Like, movies are just becoming more immersive. And obviously Star Wars is always a flagship for any of those companies, especially Industrial Light and Magic and Skywalker Sound, that will always see the best of the best being dredged out to work. And I think the technology too, they have to be using faster, cheaper technology. I think the technology that they're doing for The Mandalorian will probably be game changing. I saw a Q&A on Collider, I think, with the full disclosure, I was there live, but they did a Q&A with the Russo brothers at an Infinity War screening, and they had said they stopped by the set of Infinity War or of Mandalorian, and were saying that the way it's being shot is shot in a way that no TV series has ever been shot before. Really? And they really think it's going to be a game changer. I don't know if they're talking about the digital screens that have now leaked, or if there's still something else we haven't heard about how it's being done. But they seem to think that there was a revolution in television production coming. I've heard some things about like kind of puppetry being used as well, but like kind of motion capture puppetry, where they'll have an actor on the set of The Mandalorian in a closet somewhere, and with just facing a camera with motion capture dots, and then he'll actually be controlling a puppet that's on camera. Have you heard anything about that? Or it was something related to the Nick Nolte story where they had a Stan Winston's studio who created. Is he playing an Ugnaught or something? Okay, that's the rumor. Yeah. But that it was another actor wearing the Ugnaught mask, but the mask would react to his audio in perfect, like the lip sync and the ability and the flexibility and the amount of sort of what do they call, like articulation points in a puppet, that it was just uncanny and looked incredibly real. Huh. So all of that's really, really fascinating. Even all the puppetry and The Force Awakens, and it's just a really interesting time to see where all that advancement will go. And I don't know. And I imagine that these theme parks sound insane. That the idea that when you go to the Star Wars Galaxy's End, you'll pick if you want to be I think I read something you can pick to be a rebel, the Empire, a smuggler, whatever it is you choose, a bounty hunter. I guess you'll have like an ID chip or a bracelet, but it will sense it, and the park will interact with you differently than other people.
Right, depending on
they have that
pick.
at the Harry Potter World at Universal Studios, where if you're a kid and you buy a wand, or if you're a 45-year-old woman in a Harry Potter robe and buy a wand, there's certain parts in Harry Potter World where if you stand there, you get a little instruction guide, and if you wave the wand in the correct pattern, at that point something will change. It will unlock a door, or it turns on an animatronic puppet, or lights turn on in a window, and it makes the park interactive. So I can only imagine that the Disney Imagineers are going to outdo everything that we've already seen at every theme park in the world.
So, for example, like if I chose to be like Master Jedi Plo Koon or something, and I had my lightsaber, and like I maybe I ate too many like Star Wars nachos, and I really, really had to use the John, and like I would have to get back there and I have like to memorize like in the bathroom the sequence of lightsaber moves to be able to open up the loo to take a dump.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, or you're just going to blue milk all over the sidewalk, and that's going to be part of the Galaxy's End. There's a metaphor in that title.
Disney has never made pooping more fun, so fantastic.
Exactly. And you bet your ass that if they have butterbeer that you can drink at Harry Potter World, they're going to have blue milk that you can drink. Or maybe you'll be able to suck right from the teats of one of those things on Luke Skywalker's island,
Yeah, that's always been my dream since I saw that movie. Well, let's shift a bit. Thinking now about in-worlds technologies, one of the things I saw several years ago, I can't remember, it was an Australian guy on YouTube who makes a lot of Star Wars content, and he had sort of a 2-hour video about how the prequels should have been made, and one of the things that he was advocating for was the development of technology in the universe. So his idea was that in the prequel era, the typical blaster technology that we have in the original trilogy didn't exist, right? So that was actually a development that happened alongside the story of the prequels, and so that's how the Jedis ended up being slaughtered, was that the Emperor figured out how to make cheap blasters, and that created this world where all of a sudden the Jedi's powers were somehow diminished. I thought it was a really good idea, but
the same way that Native Americans were wonderful with spears and bows and arrows, but the minute they invented the pistol and the rifle, the gunpowder changed everything.
Exactly. And we haven't really seen that too much in Star Wars, except for The Last Jedi, where there was a major development in technology.
Which was?
Well, the Empire figured out how to track spaceships in lightspeed.
Right, of course.
And this is a major plot point, right? I mean, it was basically the linchpin of the whole conflict, was that they had this new tracker.
There's technological advances that one pink-haired captain can fly an entire starship without anyone else on the bridge. Yeah. I think that's great. That's essentially saying that the ships in the sequel trilogy era are similar to the way that it always parallels what's happening on Earth. It's like the Teslas. It's like the self-driving cars.
Okay.
It's a self-driving spaceship. People think that Holdo's piloting it, but she didn't. She just said where she wanted to go, which was to hell, I guess. Yeah, whatever destination
mercy, suicide mission. But do you anticipate any other changes in technology in Star Wars? I mean, people have talked about how the lightsabers have changed. I mean, with the crossguard lightsaber, and there's maybe Rey is going to have one of those now. What other kind of
we're going to get a black saber for sure, and we're going to get a clear saber.
I'd like to see
definitely.
a lightsaber hula hoop. It's like an exercise instrument that Jedis have to use to practice like their moves. So
I think you'll see that, or just like a lightsaber suit that you could just jump into people and slaughter them, sort of like a cloaking device of just all lightsabers, and also I think arming ships with lightsabers on them, so that if you can do close contact, kind of Mad Max style, where the vehicles have all kinds of pneumatic arms and spikes on the wheels, just stick lightsabers everywhere, so that you can slice through each other as you fly through the sky. And I mean, also, why doesn't just everybody have a lightsaber?
Well, apparently they're hard to create, right? So what we really need is a 3D printer in Star Wars universe that will print lightsabers. That will be a game changer. Maybe that's what Rey is going to do. Maybe she becomes an engineer because she does know how to tinker with things and fix droids and cockpits of Millennium Falcons and compressors. Maybe she stole the books on Ahch-To, and she's going to actually create lightsabers for all. Equity, finally, for the galaxy.
And what did they say? It's going to this film apparently takes place 1 year after. Isn't that something that John Boyega has stated?
Yeah.
So in 1 year, let's think about where's our tech. If we have the iPhone XS, which I think is a hilarious title on its own, the iPhone XS.
Excess.
It's excessive. They have to have done that on purpose. But
the joke is on us.
Then if lightsabers and spaceships and everything else like go at the same speed that we're at, hybrid cars get better every year, computers get better every year. I think definitely the screens on the ships, like the when you see their radar projections and things like that, they've done enough fan service in giving us it looks like the original trilogy, even though it's 30 years later. It's got to be fully realized, like 16-bit graphics now.
Oh yeah.
There's no reason not to have it. Oh, also, I think what we saw in the prequels, the breathing apparatuses, the underwater planet that JJ's filming in this one. I think everyone's going to, not just the Jedi will have the little breathing apparatus.
The
I
little
think everybody
harmonica
will have that,
kind of thing they put
Obviously, they're trying to compete with Aquaman, the biggest film of the year, that they need to. And, Avatar is going underwater. So Star Wars is going to have it's going to be a lightsaber that works under. We've never seen a lightsaber operate underwater. So I think imagine that standing on the bottom of an ocean on the wrecked. It's going to be it's recycled ideas that got cut from Force Awakens. They're going to have to dive down. Kylo Ren's going to dive down into the ocean of Endor, looking for where the something else of Darth Vader's other than his mask have crashed. Maybe his kyber crystal. Something, but he's going to go down there, and when he gets it, there's going to have to be an underwater lightsaber battle. We're going to understand just how powerful these kyber crystals are.
I think he should make the John Williams soundtrack at that point, like when they try to extend their lightsaber underwater, it should just make that kind of cartoony noise, like dang, dang, it just fizzles out.
Yeah, just the opposite of the cool sound that we have.
Right. Well, that's interesting. So yeah, I mean, we only have a year in between in the story time of the film, so there's not much room for massive technological developments unless a different kind of race or species or alien presence comes into the film. And there has been speculation already that there's a species called the Grisk who come from the unknown regions. They're sort of the new version of the Yushen Vong or whatever they were called from the novels, and they possibly are so numerous. Their spaceships are so numerous. They're like drones, right? I mean, just thousands of that they blot out the stars. That's kind of what I heard. Do you think Star Wars is ready for a dynamic change on that level of the in-universe technology, or do you think fans will just simply jump from the balconies and kill themselves in rebellion?
I think fans will jump from the balconies if they don't get a remake of The Force Awakens, just with a different title and different color lightsabers. But what you suggest is, yes, the First Order, their first order of business should be developing drone pilots and drone attacks. And, they got to hire Boston Robotics to do those, go back to, why did they ever move away from having the droids
technology,
and
right? Yeah,
those droidecas were badass. Like, why did they ever abandon all of that technology in favor of?
Right. I think I always heard there was some galactic law, right? They outlawed battle droids. The Empire did, or something, right? That was part of the whole idea. But if you're the Emperor, why would you outlaw those? It doesn't make any sense at all.
if you can build the Star Killer base. If you took the same amount of financial time and effort into building droids, you would have 10 gazillion droids. You would have 17 battle droids for every single person in the galaxy. So anyone who opposed you would have to be able to take down 17 battle droids.
Right.
They would rule everything. They could just basically assign 17 battle droids per person to watch everything they ever do or say.
Amazing. Well, that's what I've been advocating, for in politics too. I mean, people talk about gun control, and I say, well, we just need more guns. That's the problem. We need lasers stationed at every inch of the planet that are ready to go off to stop any crime from happening. Right? I mean, that's truly the safest option. So I think the same is true here in the Star Wars galaxy. They need to automate everything so that there's just no room for any disobedience.
If I can text you right now and you can get it in less than 3 seconds, there's no way they can't blast a laser from space and kill a gunman.
Yep.
They GPS track everything.
Well, that's probably where we're heading in the Star Wars galaxy. So it's going to be an interesting year. Any other, innovations or things about do you have any New Year's resolutions with Star Wars, I guess, that you'd like to mention here, Drivel, before we move on?
To stop trolling upset fans.
Oh,
it got me quite the reputation for
that's
being
an
an
old
arsehole.
stale resolution that we all make each year, and it lasts about 2 days.
This is true, and it's mostly a resolution I feel I can complete because I've been blocked from Twitter. So
right.
You can't if you don't have a bridge for which to stand under to troll people, you are unable to troll. There's a couple Star Wars YouTube channels that I'm going to try to bring down for hate speech, or at least try to convince people to stop listening to them, because I really believe that most of the hatred, confusion, upset, and worry comes from a couple key YouTube channel bloggers that are just all about trying to clickbait people and make money from the titles of their videos, and they're just pulling facts out of their ass because they suddenly have 6 or they're Kathleen Kennedy because they have 6 hot leads every day posting so many videos, and it's just impossible that they're that tied in or have that much access or information. So it's all BS.
I have no idea what channel you might be talking about. I have zero idea what you could possibly be referring to. I think if I gave you a dart, you could throw it and hit the dartboard and be perfectly on target with whose basement dartboard videos I might be discussing. Yes.
But I just think it's very harmful. Every time I log into my YouTube channel, there's a new video saying what went wrong with The Last Jedi, how Disney doesn't care about the fans, why Rian Johnson was hired to destroy the legacy. And it's just it's all just fake news. It's all just garbage. This is the movie that Disney wanted. This is the script that JJ approved and read and gave notes on, and the story group wanted. Everybody knew what Rian Johnson was doing. This is a $200 million franchise film owned by Disney. Iger read it and loved it. Everybody loved it and thought it was the best move forward, and didn't remotely anticipate the backlash that they got. And people has tried to say especially the hot topic to get 100,000 views now is how JJ is going to retcon everything that happened in The Last Jedi for Episode 9. It's just just give it up. It's not true. There's no truth to it. You're making it up, and you just need to go into Episode 9 and enjoy it. But by even clicking those videos and watching them, or making those videos, or reading them, or discussing them, you're setting yourself up. You're setting your expectations for failure. The same with The Last Jedi. For everybody who believed Christian Harloff and I think The Last Jedi is going to be better than Empire Strikes Back, and then then he went back into misery mode of I didn't like it, and some of these bloggers really are the problem. As much as they're trying to celebrate fandom, they just create more problems. So I'm trying to be free of all of that and educate at least my friends that are fans into just ignoring it all and enjoying the movie for what it is, because this is the only film property that me and my friends overthink every second of every day. None of us finish watching a season of The Handmaid's Tale and then talk about it and blog about it and write posts about it and rip on the filmmakers about why in episode 5 she should have held the knife in her left hand instead of the right because it's out of context of season 1 and ruining origin stories. Everybody needs to just relax, enjoy 2019, and realize if you don't want to watch the new Star Wars films, you also have the power. Be a good Jedi, dig deep down inside you, and use your powers to just not watch. Just walk away.
Yeah. Great resolution. I love it. My resolution is to donate all the royalties that I've received from having written the original Star Wars screenplays to help fans just like you who are struggling with seeing their resolutions take form in the real world. So, sounds like we have a lot in common.
Well, I imagine that you won't see much then, because I think you're George Lucas's bitch.
Great. All right. I never said I wasn't.
This is fair. This is fair. You have never outwardly claimed that you were not George Lucas's bitch. Let the record show.
Yeah. May it please the court. So. All right. Well, hey, Drivel, it's been great having you on as your first co-hosting experience of 2019. How was it?
It was painless. 2019 is going to be a great year. The Galactic Senate is finally going to get rid of the evil empire. Everything's going to be wonderful.
One can hope that the midichlorians will align and all will be well in the galaxy.
There's no chance that the Sith will ever come back.
Nope. Not even for a reboot. So, well, tell the listeners where they can find us.
Well, you can follow Faking Star Wars on Twitter and Instagram at Faking Star Wars, and on Facebook, it's facebook.com/RealFakingStarWars.
That's right. And submit a question for us on Twitter by using the hashtag FSW Radio. And if it's a well-thought-out, considered question, we'll throw it in the garbage. But if it's something that demonstrates your total ignorance, we may read it next week. Also, you can get official Faking Star Wars t-shirts and other fantastic gear on that's T-E-E, tpublic.com/user/Faking Star Wars, or you can find all these links on our website, fakingstarwars.net. Please, if you have any questions whatsoever about the podcast or Star Wars fake news, get me on Twitter at DuperStorm.
And you can't follow me anywhere because Twitter keeps blocking my account no matter what I do or how much I behave. But definitely follow at Faking Star Wars Radio, which would be at FSW Radio on Twitter and Instagram as well.
I heard last time it was because your Pinterest didn't have enough keto recipes. Is that true? Is that why you got blocked?
I did. I've been doing the Greedo diet, so
nice.
my keto stats have fallen.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Greedo species are all vegetarian, if I'm not mistaken, right? They don't have teeth. They can only eat liquid food.
I know, but no matter what I do, I always work a porg recipe into it, and Twitter community just shuts me down. It's really
porg on the rocks, you know.
Exactly.
Meaty and refreshing. So if you like what you hear and want to support us, you can get on our Patreon as well. That's patreon.com/FakingStarWars. Become a patron. We have all levels available for the financially lucrative fans out there. And it's as little as $1 a month if you are stingy. So be like Darth Taxis, who's joined at the Fake Jedi Knight tier.
That sounds like he's pulling some sort of Taxis scam.
I know.
With a handle like that, but good on him. Nobody likes space taxes, as proven by many prequels.
That's right. Yes, the taxation of trade routes and Patreon subscriptions is in dispute.
And if this podcast hasn't been taxing enough, have you written us a review yet? If not, please consider giving us a 5-star review on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, even if it's a platform we're not on. If that's your choice, just leave the review there. And if you write a funny review, we may read it on an upcoming episode. Or we may not, or we may mock it, or we may work it into our official Faking Star Wars movie, which is in development. You heard it here first.
That's right. And if you'd like to help write the script, you're also entitled to do that by donating on our Patreon. So, as always, please stay tuned to FakingStarWars.net for a quality Star Wars comedy, parody, and satire. Thanks to all of you out there for listening. And this year, 2019, may the foe be with you. See you next time.
goodbye or whatever.